Hey, hello, y'all whale fetuses. It's your boy, Whale Fetus United, back again with another episode of the podcast, the greatest podcast on earth, Questions and Quandaries, where and today with a special guest, uh, another intellectual like myself, uh, Tepid, Tepid, Tepip, will.
Yes. Hello. It's Tepip. I also have a YouTube. Um, and thank you for having me on.
No problem, my man. We're gonna do things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're kind of. Your audio is a little bit choppy, just so you know.
Oh yeah. I get it. Okay, so we're gonna be answering some questions today. Of course, that's because the
Yeah.
podcast is named Questions and Quandaries. So let's begin. The first question is cereal a form of soup? So, you want to go first, or should I give my opinion first?
Um. I'll go.
Okay. Wait. Before we start on this
Yeah.
one, I'll give the definition of soup, and then we can decide whether cereal is a form of soup. So, this is from a Wikipedia, which is the most reliable source of all because its other sources are compiled into one. So
Yeah.
they defined soup as a primarily liquid food, generally served warm or hot, but maybe cool or cold. That is made by combining ingredients of meat or vegetables with stock, juice, water, or another liquid. Hot soups are additionally characterized by boiling solid ingredients and liquids in a pot until the flavors are extracted, forming a broth. And that is the, or one of the definitions of soup. So, is cereal a form
Um.
of soup?
Your audio is really cutting out. It's like really choppy.
Oh, yeah. It's because it's over Skype, yeah.
It's what?
It's over Skype.
Okay. So when you record it, is
Yeah.
does it come out normal?
Uh, it's recording directly from my mic, so it's not.
Okay. Yeah. Um. Okay. So it might be hard for me to hear everything you're saying, but I think that description makes sense. Um. So I would say that cereal itself is not a soup, but cereal can be a component in soup, right? Because when you have a bowl of cereal, it's really not just a bowl of cereal. It's a bowl of cereal and milk, or I like to have my cereal with water, but that it's different strokes for different folks. Um, so I don't know. I feel like the cereal itself can be a component in soup, even though it's not a meat product. Technically, the oats are oats a vegetable? That's like
Actually, I'm not sure.
let me search it up. I know that vegetable is also kind of a stretchy term because it's only culinary. It's not scientifically based like fruit is. Um,
Well, according to the U.S. government on the food pyramid, apparently, this is a quote from RogerMWilcox.com. Grains, no, wait, quote, grains are not vegetables! Exclamation mark, ellipses. Oats are not a vegetable. Rye and
Okay.
barley are not vegetables. So, according to this quote, they aren't. Oats are not vegetables, but does it still constitute being a soup? Because just because something is usually made with something doesn't mean it has to have those certain components in order to be that thing, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, but don't. Okay, so I feel like also part of the definition is kind of flavor. So like a soup is savory, but cereal is kind of sweet, maybe, or I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, soup is a very broad term. It could have many variations and add-ins to it that could make it its own version. Just because something is not a soup now doesn't mean it can't be a soup in the future. Just like how Pluto was once considered a planet, but now it is not considered a planet. And I feel as if cereal could be the same for soup, right? But like there's many limitations and variations and different things bolstering and obstructing its uh, journey to become a soup. But there are many things, other ingredients that have been used to thicken soup, like according to the Wikipedia page, which everything is I'm getting from is on the Wikipedia
Yeah.
page. It says,
Um.
quote, other ingredients commonly used to thicken soups and broths include egg, rice, lentil flour, and grains. Many popular soups also include pumpkin, carrots, and potatoes. But although grains can be used in soup, what if it's not the primary
Could
thing?
you slow down a little bit? You're cutting out again.
Oh, just open the wiki page on soup.
Okay. Yeah. So I think like based on what I'm reading, I don't think I don't think cereal is a soup. I mean, it doesn't really. Does cereal have a broth?
But sometimes grains, which by which the oats are considered under, are used to thicken soup as like a side ingredient. But if those side ingredients could become the primary ingredient, would it then become a soup? But nothing has become a soup when oats are the primary ingredient, right?
Yeah. Um, I don't know. It says I don't think that um I feel like soup has to be savory, you know? Like I don't think it really works as a sweet or umami or bitter. Like you wouldn't consider like bitter soup really soup because soup is savory, not bitter,
But what
and
is
it's not.
savory?
Savory is like it's hard to describe in words. Anything other than sight for me is kind of hard to describe in words. But
Why would a cereal not be considered savory though?
well, I think cereal is not savory because the sugar creates a lot of sweetness. Sweetness is like I mean, people know what sweetness tastes like, right? It's all kind of subjective, though. Um, but savory is like what kind of some meats taste like. It's not really like poking out at you. It's a more chillaxed kind of flavor. Uh, It's let me search up what the definition for savory is.
Hmm.
Um, so it's more salty or spicy than sweet. Um, it's like um, okay. Wait. Okay. So the five types are sweetness, sourness, bitterness, and saltiness. So we all kind of know what those taste like. Um,
But
let's say
would certain, I mean, like certain cereals could be considered spicy,
like what?
like what do you call them? The one with the wolf on the thing. What is it?
The chocolate chip
No,
cereal?
no, no, no. It has like a wolf. It's like
I'm pretty sure that's the chocolate chip cereal
no,
with
no.
the
It's like cookies. They're like
yeah. Cookie Crunch is
yeah.
not
It's kind of spicy.
spicy.
I think it is though.
No, I think the cookies just add on to the sweetness. I don't really know a type of cereal that isn't uh, sweet
What do you call it?
to
Lucky
some
Charms.
degree.
Lucky
Lucky Charms is
Charms. No, but
very sweet.
without the sugar. I mean, like the marshmallows. Like I
So
used to,
just with the oats, like
yeah, yeah.
Cheerios.
Like I used to. No, but it's like not really. I used to eat all the marshmallows, and then not eat the oats. But
Yeah,
because they're not
well,
like, because I think they
the
use inferior oats compared to like other companies.
the oats still have sugar added on to them though. Like they're still sweet. Um,
Yeah, but I feel as if they are inferior. They're not as sweet as others. I feel like if that actually, I feel like we're going off course, but
um,
you know,
yeah, but
I think we should refer back to your point earlier, your inquiry earlier on the subjectiveness of soup, on how subjectivity and opinionation plays into the derivation of whether cereal is a soup. So
yeah, um, I think what we can end this question on is really agreeing that the I feel like etymology and kind of just what's that word? It's not syntax, but like the way we interpret words differently when there's not a clear definition,
yeah, I feel like
that definitely muddies the water on the possibilities of, to answer this question.
yeah, I agree with you there. It's a very subjective, very opinionated matter by which the answer has not been derived. So we hope that this will spur some thinking and philosophical inquiry amongst the viewers
Yeah.
of this one. So we shall move on to the next question.
Okay.
So, in spiritual, religious, and scientific contexts, does free will truly exist? So, I'm going to start on this one. I feel like as a non, as a Buddhist, but not really like that much of a hardcore Buddhist. Like, I'm a Buddhist, but like not that hardcore Buddhist. Like, I mean, I practice some Buddhist things, but not like all of them. And
Um,
I,
sorry, you're chopping out
oh yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah. I was fixing something right. So, as a Buddhist, I would say that free
Can't hear
will.
you well at
Yeah,
all.
I know. Don't worry, I can see the waveforms on my
Okay.
thing. It's recording. So, as a Buddhist,
Yeah.
I would say that uh that it does that free will exists in some planes, but not holistically, right?
Not in humans.
Oh, I mean some planes. I mean some actions. We can't choose what we reincarnate as, right? So I mean, oh wait, let me fix something real quick.
Okay. Um.
So what do you think, man?
What?
So what's your opinion on yeah, it on free will?
My opinion is that free will doesn't exist because I mean, really, all we are chemicals. I mean, like basically all the mental disorders that people have are from chemical imbalances, right?
Yeah.
Or blunt force trauma, changing the structure and shape of the proteins that process those chemicals and create electric sparks, which are our brain's thoughts, which we then use more electricity to turn into muscular actions, whether that be in the throat or with the hands, biceps. Um, so I mean, technically, I don't think free will exists, but I still think that humans can learn. Um, I think
But can we not choose to learn? If we can choose to learn, does that not mean that we have free will?
I mean, all of our choices though are under physics, right? Because like, based on our chemical properties, um, that's how we decide to do things. So, technically, if you ran a physics simulator and um, you had the exact same chemical properties that all the properties and positions of molecules that started with the Big Bang, you could definitely end up with the same exact. You could like make a simulation of me, and it would be the exact same as me, and I could see what would happen in the future to me. Um, I don't think we'll ever have the computing power or the knowledge to actually be able to do that. But I think the fact that that is what would happen proves that free will is not possible.
Yeah, but just because we're made of atoms and molecules which exhibit certain predictable properties, which can be tracked and whatnot, does that still mean that free will doesn't exist? Because like for some molecules and atoms like NaCl or like a Jimmy neutron, it's like sodium chloride. It's like he said sodium chloride one time,
Oh,
and
yes.
remember, uh, sodium on its
Uh huh.
own is like pretty bad. Chlorine on its own is also pretty bad. Combine
Yeah.
them, you get salt. I
Yeah.
mean, just because we can predict the individual properties of the atoms to which consist humans and organisms in general, does that still mean that we could predict the individual actions of them? Because now, after they're combined, don't they have completely different properties? And like the when they have even more properties. Oh, what?
Um. Yeah. I mean, I guess to an extent. Um. That's true. I don't feel like that. I mean, I guess like free will is our ability to make choices independent of a higher power, right?
I guess, yeah.
So I don't know. I see that higher power as kind of being the Big Bang in a way. Because I feel like all actions can be predicted if you have all the right information. I don't feel that there's any true randomness in the universe. Nothing is random. Nothing, like even in
But isn't one of
word
the
generations
but isn't
or
the one of the laws of what do you call it? I don't know. There was one law of thermodynamics, second law. I'm not sure. It stated that like as time goes on or whatever, the entropy of the world increases. So does that mean that the randomness increases too?
well, I think there's a difference between randomness and disorder. Um, Disorder is when um, it's not structured. I think you can have disorder that you can have things that are disordered, they don't have structure, um, yet they still are reactive. I don't think there's any there's I don't think that the universe started with anything necessarily. I mean, I know the Big Bang is a thing, but something would have had to create the Big Bang. I think the universe has always existed, and therefore everything is reactive. And so, therefore, well, yes, entropy does exist. It's not really related to randomness. Randomness is a chance. Um,
But is disorder not the opposite of order?
yes, you're
So
correct. It's
if
the opposite.
disorder is the opposite of order, and and as disorder increases, wouldn't that mean that more things are happening outside of the realms of order? And if more things happen outside the realms of order, does that mean that they're no longer adhering to the same thing? And if more things are no longer adhering to the same line of logic or whatever, does that mean that they're occupying some form of free will?
Um, well, that's a loaded question, but I'm going to say that you're making, not to insult you, but I think you're making jumps in your conclusion that don't necessarily work out when you actually think about them. Because, okay, so let's just break down what you said. You said that disorder is the opposite of order. Okay, that's correct. Then you go on and you say that disorder is related to the randomness, the difference, the breaking of structure. And yes, disorder is the breaking of structure, but I do not agree that the breaking of structure is actually randomness. I think that randomness is um, when
But it's not randomness. It's an exhibition of free will, wouldn't it? Because if not like non-free will is adherence to a certain line, wouldn't free will be one breaking from that line, breaking from tradition?
uh, it is breaking from tradition, yes, but the thing is that the physics of the universe are the physics of the universe. You can't really change them. You can't change the physical properties. Um, Things are always going to happen in a predictable way, even if it's not structured. Even if a lot of different things start happening, um, where it seems that they don't have any relation towards each other anymore, um, where it's harder to affect multiple things when one action. Um, it's That's because they're not related. They get less related. Things get less and less related as time goes on. Um, but you still have the rules of physics. You still have properties that control how entropy progresses. I mean, the laws of thermodynamics are some of the rules of physics. I don't necessarily see the relation between.
But how is it that following the rules of physics means that free will doesn't exist? I mean, if a person follows the law, they're choosing to follow the law, and by choosing to follow the law, wouldn't that be free will?
You cannot choose to follow the law of physics. Physics is not like a law, like a governmental law. There's no choice behind it. It's just what happens.
But if we, but the atoms, they in themselves exist under the guidelines set and discovered under the laws of physics.
Yes.
So they are following those rules.
Okay, yes, that's what I've already established.
And by following those rules, they can create certain properties, right?
Okay, yeah.
And some of those properties can bind together and exhibit other properties, like atoms binding together, forming molecules with different properties, right? Different traits.
Yes, they do have different properties, but those properties are still the results of the rules of physics.
And if those molecules bind together, they can form certain more complex compounds, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And those compounds can sometimes can eventually, if we keep cascading down a complexity pathway, eventually somehow we get to genes, right? Genes exist.
Yes, genes do exist.
And genes lead to the expression or the conservation of certain behaviors or phenotypical traits, right?
Yeah.
Now, if some organism with a certain trait has something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Has a certain trait, right? And a predator eats or consumes it, right? And that prey is like outside of the norm. It's like say it's like I don't know, like a snake eating an elephant.
What?
Like let's say a snake eats an elephant. Let's say a snake tries to eat an elephant. Now the elephant has traits expressed that are
Skype's shutting out again.
Oh. So, wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Okay, I see your line of logic, but I don't know. I still think that, you know, I think what you're conflating is that what you're thinking is that I'm saying that everything is based on your genetics, how they were. Well, that's not true. A lot of it is based on your environment also, but your environment is a factor that still does not work with free will.
Okay.
Because you're placed in your environment. It's not by chance that you're born in an environment. The location of your parents decided that, and who you interact with and that stuff, that shapes your will. But who you're going to interact with is already if you ran a simulation, you'd already know that, you know.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think because when you interact with your environment, when you're taking it through your senses, that's still chemicals. You're taking through whether that be electrical chemicals from your eyes, different types of flavors from the compounds that your taste buds receive. It's all signaling, you know. So I think it still technically devoids free will, but I think still people can try to do better. People can still learn without free will. They can still change who they are without free will. But, you know,
I see where you're going. It's a good point. But I guess so. for this one. I guess we could agree to disagree, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I think that
So
would work.
okay, so let's move on to the next question.
Okay.
When Plato, this is a history one after we just went down the scientific foxhole on the last question. Next
Yeah.
one is when Plato decided to refer to the city of Atlantis, famous city. It's pretty famous in his work Timaeus in Critias. Was it a true physical description of it, or was it a metaphor? If a metaphor, what for? Yeah, I get it.
That's a good question. I don't really know how to answer that, so I think you should take it first.
See, well, of course, since on the basis that it has no physical evidence, no archaeological, no geological, no evidence of existence whatsoever, and we found a lot of things in this ocean, in this world, especially near Greece and whatnot. I feel that it is a metaphor, and of course, knowing that Plato is a philosopher, it must be a complex metaphor for something. And
Uh-huh.
if I knew more about Greece in that time period, it would probably be Atlantis, since we all know that Atlantis is a city in the water that was a
Hmm.
utopia and whatnot that eventually sank. It was probably supposed to be a representation of a city state during his time. It was probably really strong militarily and technologically and scientifically as well, but eventually went under for various reasons. And I think in his story, the ocean represents some of its foes that it depended on because it depended on the ocean, but then eventually backstabbed them or turned around and somehow gained together in a coalition to defeat them. So I'm not sure what that foe would be. What would your inputs
Can you
on?
repeat that?
So what who do you feel would be the foe, or what would the metaphor of Atlantis?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here, man.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello.
Hi. I can't hear you.
Oh, what? Did you mute me or something? Oh, wait, he can't hear me.
I can, like, barely hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Wait, can you hear me now?
Um,
Hello.
okay. Are you talking now?
Yeah. Hello?
Okay, I can kind of hear you. You want to repeat what you said?
What is Atlantis a metaphor of?
Um, hmm. Okay, let me think about this one.
You got time. It's fine.
Um, so I probably think I think you're right to assert that it's probably a city state that was technologically advanced. I'm guessing it might have been an island that we probably know by a different name today, or maybe even a collection of different island cultures that were heavily dependent on fishing and living with the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think it was probably one of those smaller city states that it was based on. So I think you're right. Yeah.
Uh, what about Athens?
Basing it on Athens. Well, I don't think it's based on Athens because didn't Plato live there?
What do you wait? Did he? I don't know.
Um,
Oh yeah, he was in Athens.
yeah, I don't think. I think it
But why would it not
Athens.
make sense for him to make a metaphor of the same place he lived in? Like many writers create fictional places based on the nations that they lived in. Wait, never mind. He hated Athens, so he would not glorify. Wait, actually, no. He could use Athens because eventually s- Atlantis sinks. Does it not?
Um, yeah,
Well, on the basis that he hated Athens because his what is his name? Socrates was his we call him teacher, and he didn't and he was a big fan of his teacher Socrates. He loved him. He cared for him
hmm
dearly, right? And
yeah,
so maybe he liked Socrates, and because you know Athens kind of executed him for doing something or like for speaking out. Sorry.
yeah,
Uh, he gained a disdain for them because that's what happens when you kill someone's teacher. Uh, he by gaining that disdain, I guess he could see Athens as like a city state that fell from grace, just like
yeah,
how Atlantis is a city that has gone asunder, gone
yeah.
under
Um,
the water.
I think now that I'm reading the article, it seems like Atlantis may have well been a metaphor for current Athens. Because in the books he mentions that Atlantis was a city state that was fighting with Athens, in following kind of a sophist point of view, uh, kind of what current Athens was being run as, and that the old Athens, which followed Plato's idea of the Republic, was instead um, had blocked them off, had destroyed them, like he was planning to do maybe with his new republic to the current Athens.
Hmm. So would by having Atlantis be a city state that is in conflict with or against Athens, Atlantis being at Athens' throat, by having them in conflict, would that be a symbolic representation of like how Athens is tearing itself apart by following this sophist corrupted mindset?
Yeah, I think his um, he's trying to portray the internal conflict, the internal struggle that he has with Athens, um, in a way that a lot of the Athenians will understand. By using an old Athens, he's trying to create a relatable kind of civic virtue of protecting the nation state as it was. He's really trying to establish the idea that his idea of a republic is the natural and best state for Athens to be in.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I think we finally found something that we agree on.
Yeah, yeah,
So let's move on to the next question in
yes,
this list. So this we're about to jump 2,000 years into the future from the period. that we're discussing right now, which is ancient Greece. Well, actually, it's more than 2,000 years. Uh, Next question that we're going to be discussing is, let me find it real quick. Were the Serbians and their overarching governmental body responsible for the initiation of World War I? It's a very controversial topic, very controversial indeed. Many people at the time believed it, but has it held up the modern day with modern evidence?
Yeah.
You you would agree that the Serbians were responsible for the Black Hand terrorist organization that
Um, I think in part, um, I don't necessarily think that the Serbians hired the terrorists that killed Franz Ferdinand. Um, but I do think that the culture that they perpetuated against the what country was it again that Franz
Austria
Ferdinand?
Hungary.
Yeah, Austria-Hungary. So I think the Serbian government perpetrated a culture, societal effect of alienating themselves from the Austrian Hungarians, um, and really establishing them as the enemy. I think that definitely played a role in riling up the people, leading to the assassination attempts. I don't think there's a um, direct connection, though. The only thing I could see maybe if they helped with funding, but I don't know.
But if we were to blame them for like influence on that, wouldn't that then put the blame back on the Austro-Hungarians? Because the source of the anger that they had for the Austro-Hungarians was based on the fact that just a few years earlier, the Austro-Hungarians had conquered and taken small piece of territory from the Serbs, and of course that territory by which they took from the Serbs is where the assassination took place. Well, actually, I'm not sure, but the Serbian was of course from Serbia, of the area taken, seized by the Austro-Hungarians. So wouldn't that mean that the blame is back on the Austro-Hungarians? Would they not? Did they not just uh, cause their own fate?
Um, yeah, I do. I would agree with you that it's probably the Austro-Hungarians' fault for provoking the Serbians. But I still do think that um, let me think, that the use of propaganda and the general culture that the government created in response to this act, um, definitely put fuel to the fire for the anger. I think if the government of Serbia kind of took it lightly, I think, yes, the people that live there would still be very mad, but I don't think they would actually have the guts to do it, considering that the terrorists probably knew to an extent that the Serbian government would be on their side in this matter.
But why is it their fault for responding in that way? I mean, Ukraine uh, doesn't exactly have a nice relationship with Russia, and justifiably, they funded rebels to take Russian separatists in Crimea to annex it. Is that not the same? If not, in my opinion, I think the Austro-Hungarian seizing the territory from Serbia is actually more aggressive than what we see Ukraine responding to Russia seizing
So,
Ukraine. Would that, if that
um,
response is warranted, would a terrorist culture? I mean, not a an aggressive anti-Austro-Hungarian culture not be justified?
um, I don't ever think terrorism is justified. I think
But is it
I don't know.
terrorism or liberation?
It's hard to classify it could be classified as terrorism or an act of war. Um, it really depends on how you define um, when World War One started, because under your definitions, I feel like you would probably be leaning towards saying that World War One actually started with the taking of land by the Austrian Hungarians
No, no.
of the
I
Serbians.
would say it would be the declaration of war between Austro-Hungary
Well,
on Serbia.
yeah, um, I think technically it is the declaration of war, but a lot of historians say that the war started with the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. I would actually argue maybe it culturally started with the annexation of those parts of Serbia.
So, but does so then the Serbians are responsible, right? Because
Uh,
if they had just won the war, then a World War One would have never taken place because then their land would have not been seized.
yeah. I think the Serbians had a choice. They had a clear choice to stop World War One from progressing,
Yeah, they should have just won the war in the first place.
or maybe not responded so negatively to their annexation or
But
to their partial
is
annexation.
that not justified? I mean, most countries
Um,
wouldn't
it's
necessarily be welcoming to their conquerors. I mean, was
yes, it is justified, but I still think that if that action had not been taken, the map of Europe would look very different today. I think had they not responded, I believe that maybe the conflict in Europe would have settled down for a while.
do you prefer the old map of Europe or the new map of Europe?
I don't really prefer it or not prefer it.
I mean,
I don't really know enough
aesthetically.
about the climates.
No, I don't mean like the actual nations. I mean like just looking at it, like aesthetically, like the map, the borders. Do the borders look aesthetically better?
Let me see. World War. Um, I I think one of the nicer things is that the map is it's a lot more contained.
Yeah, I think the consolidation, the what do you call it? Like the fact that they're all the countries are a lot more united. There's a lot less like independence. I mean, that's not a bad thing, but aesthetically, when you see less of that, it looks kind of better. It's softer on the eyes, you know. No,
Yeah, there's less nations to play around with. Um, it's I don't I think the borders are mostly the same. Well, some of the borders are the same.
I mean, some of the
I
countries don't exist anymore.
Yeah, I think I like in the new map. I do like that there's more variety, a lot more different shapes that you can make out of a lot more different countries. Um, However, I do think it's a lot nicer to have more united countries on the eyes. I think that looks better.
Yeah, I would agree. So that's our discussion on the responsibility of the Serbian people and their nation in the initiation of World War One. So we'll move on to our concluding question. And our
Yes. Let
concluding
me pull
question.
up the lyrics on Genius.
Yeah, so our concluding question will be an analysis of Carly Rae Jepsen's song, Call Me Maybe. It's a classic, pop song made in the 2010s, I think.
Yeah, I think it came out in 2011.
Oh, 2012.
Oh, yeah, 2012. You're right.
So do we do
Or
the?
no, actually, it came out in September 2011.
Oh really? She man.
Yeah, the album it released with came out in 2012.
Oh, I. So are we gonna do the Kids Bop version or
We'll
the bad version?
analyze the
The
original
yeah, the
version.
original, the pure unaltered version.
Yes, the demo cut. Give me 1 minute. Um, you
Okay,
can
I'm
cut
just
out
going.
this portion, I guess. I don't know.
I'm too lazy to edit this, man. I'm gonna leave it all in. Okay, I'm gonna just read the lyrics out, and the audience is going to enjoy this.
Okay.
Lyrics. I threw a wish in the well. Don't ask me, I'll never tell. I looked to you as it fell,
Give me a
and
second.
now you're in my way. I trade my soul for a wish, pennies and dimes for a kiss. I wasn't looking for this, but now you're in my way.
Um.
Your stare was
Okay.
holding.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm almost on. Ripped jeans, skin was showing. Hot night, wind was blowing. Where you think you going, baby? But here, no wait, wrong one. Oh, I think I skipped a few. Oh no, I didn't. Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy. But here's my number, so call me maybe. It's hard to look right at you, baby, but here's my number, so call me maybe. It's hard to look right at you, baby, but here's my number, so call me maybe. Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. And all the other
You're
boys.
cutting out again.
Yeah, I know, I kinda. But here's my number, so call me baby. You took your time.
Can I go over the first set of lyrics?
Okay,
Verse
let's start with
1?
the first stanza. Start with the first stanza. So you wanna give your interpretation, and I'll give mine.
Hello?
Hello? So, do you want to give your interpretation, and then I'll give my interpretation?
Hello?
I think I'm muted. I guess. Can you hear me?
Not your backpack, that's your purse.
But can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, then. So we're doing the first stanza.
Yeah, verse 1. So it starts with, I threw a wish in the well, don't ask me, I'll never tell. So this is an allusion to putting money and throwing it in down a fountain or something and making a wish. So she's saying that she'll never tell you what this wish was. But I think given the other matter of the song, in that she says pennies and dimes for a kiss, she's obviously talking about how she wants a casual relationship.
I would agree. I would think that the well or spring, like the use her in the first stanza, she states the usage of a well. The well or spring is usually it's a powerful symbol. It's a sort of a representation of how nature and how man manipulates nature, right? How
Yeah.
humans are able to use nature to their own advantage, drilling a hole in it and then compiling its water and aquatic resources into a well, right? So it's a representation of the humans manipulation of nature. And
Yes,
she
and I
says,
think sorry. I think that connects beautifully to what she's basically saying is that he's trying to twist this relationship into something that is unnatural. She's not looking for this. She wasn't looking for a unnatural um, relationship. So now she's going to have to tell this person exactly what she wants and restore balance to nature.
I would agree it's an unnatural relationship. Let me
Let's
check
go.
something. Wait,
Okay.
if we look in the first stanza still, in the line, I'd trade my soul for a wish, pennies and dimes for a kiss. So it's very subtle, but she's a very whoever wrote this is a very clever and very smart lyricist because they chose to use pennies and dimes for a kiss. This is clearly a slight nod to Thomas Jefferson, who is on the nickel. Now, Now, what did Thomas Jefferson? What did Thomas Jefferson own? He owned the Monticello, a plantation. The name of the Monticello has the word cello in it. Cello, as in the instrument. Now, cellos are an instrument, and what do instruments make? Music. Now,
Yes.
seeing as how she's trying to keep, she only trades
I'm
pennies.
recording a podcast.
She's trading pennies and dimes for a kiss. She is not trading nickels for a kiss. So
I'm not talking to you.
so
I'm not
she's
doing the podcast.
maintaining.
I heard mom. Sorry.
So
I
she's
would.
so she's maintaining the nickel. She's maintaining the cello. She's maintaining the music. By maintaining music,
I would have to disagree with that. Sorry.
you disagree with
I think that
the nickel.
I think that interpretation is a little bit of a stretch because you're saying Monticello, cello. I mean, let me think about that. The word Monticello and cello they don't really have any relation. You're kind of making up a connection that isn't there.
Well, I mean,
Um,
Carly Rae Jepsen is a very smart and very clever songwriter. So the illusions she's making is, of course, going to be really complex and hard to get. But that merely just adds on to the deeper and more complex meaning of the song.
Maybe instead, when she says pennies and dimes for a kiss, dime was obviously a word used to refer to girls in the 20th century. So I actually think she's saying that she's trading herself for the relationship.
I guess. But what about pennies? Pennies.
Penny is a girl's name.
Oh, it's a good one. That's a good
Oh.
catch right there. That was a very subtle nod that she made to the preceding generations, cultures before her. It's very smart.
Yes. Where women often had to sacrifice their own careers and independence to have a stable relationship. Should we move on to the pre-chorus now?
Oh, sure, man. Sure.
Okay. Your stare was holding, ripped jeans, skin was showing, hot night wind was blowing. Where do you think you're going, baby?
I think that's a very complex verse. It's a very complex set of lyrics in this.
Yeah.
So, your stare was holding. It's a good one. Ripped jeans, skin was showing. So I think here jeans are representation of durability,
Yeah.
long-lasting reliability, and by having the jeans, ripped jeans, right?
Yeah.
His jeans are ripped. That's showing that she's trying to land a guy who's not willing to be reliable in the relationship, not willing to be to commit to a long-lasting relationship. That's why the genes are ripped, because genes are durable, but they're ripped here to show that they are not. This guy is not durable. He is not reliable like genes. It's very smart nod by Carly Rae Jepsen to add this in here, because it shows that she's got a good knowledge of symbols and literature representations. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think the Rick genes. If we look at this in a order, the first verse I think is really setting up that this guy is not taking the relationship the same way she was taking it, and he wasn't kind of abandoning her, as seen in "Where Do You Think You're Going, Baby?" Um, so he's not trusting her, and he's leaving her because he is not a durable person. Um,
yeah, and then she goes on to add that after the loss of reliability, the loss of durability due to symbolism of the ripped genes, she says, "Skin was showing. Skin was showing. Hot night. Wind was blowing." So, by saying this, Carly Rae Jepsen, the smart lyricist that and smart writer that she is, skin is a representation of vulnerability. She's showing how although he's unreliable and like not durable, he's not like genes at all. He's unadhering to the gene symbol.
yeah,
He's he is at heart, he's vulnerable. That is why he's like this. He's showing
yeah,
his skin. He's vulnerable. He can and that's why he never commits to a relationship. And
yeah,
I guess she's able to see this. That's why she says skin was showing. His vulnerability was showing. And she's seeing this, and that's almost charming in a way. And it's
um,
very smart.
yeah. I think his skin showing and the wind blowing, is him revealing his true self, his true character to Carly Rae Jepsen.
Yeah, and he furthers this. Furthermore, she adds on hot night. Hot night. Temperature hot. Heat in the night. When we think of
Yes,
hot, we typically think of reds, right? Reds, yellows, oranges. Those type of colors and those shades, those variations of those shades at least. Now night, when we think of night, we think of darker colors. Black, dark blue, gray nights, with very
yeah,
small like specks of light from the stars. Now hot night, this is a synthesis of those two colors. It creates the image of the hot orange, yellows, and the reds, and juxtaposes them with the dark colors of a night. And this is clearly to show that he's a very complex character, the man she's attracted to. Like as we've
yes,
discussed, he has a true character which he does not reveal to her, and the use of this juxtaposition shows how how he's light as in the use of the word hot, and he's also dark as in the use of the word night. It's very, very intellectual of her to put this in her
um,
composition.
yeah. I think also, I think maybe it could be comparing her to him. He is the hot kind of red colors, where she is the more mild, cool, blue colors. She's looking for casualness. He's trying to abandon her, because she's not giving him the same fire that he's putting out. I think it's a kind of contrast to the two.
Yeah, I think it's all both of our ideas. I think are used in her creation of this, because of course we've seen how smart she is, how intelligent Carly Rae Jepsen is, and it's most likely that she uses both meanings in this, describing not only the relationship between them, but also her partner, as an individual as well.
Yeah. I think we've reached a good conclusion on that. Should we move on to the
Oh
chorus?
yeah, sure. Hey, I just met you. And this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. It's hard to look right at you, baby, but here's my number, so call me maybe. Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy. But here's my number, so call me maybe. And all the other boys will try to chase me. But here's my number, so call me maybe.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd just like to establish before we really go into this is that I believe this chorus takes place before the time of the verse and the pre-chorus. I think
How
this is
so?
yes.
No, I said how so? How's
Oh,
you come to this?
that's because I think when she says "I just met you" and this is crazy, I think this is her being introduced to the person. This is her first meeting. This is showing how she's making that initial wish that she talked about. The throwing of her wish was her asking this guy, and telling her number. That's the original bet that she references in the verse. Where the verse is the reflection of that wish, the chorus is actually the wish itself.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I think the fact that she's going straight forward into the relationship, that she's being very forward, shows kind of her, not innocence, not ignorance, but kind of unknowing, unreadiness. She was not ready for this. She didn't know what she was getting into because she was too desperate.
I guess I think it makes sense in this context, but I feel like the phone when she says, but here's my number, so call me maybe. She gives him his number. I feel like phone numbers are used as a representation of herself. Phone numbers are usually conserved, not often given out much. But what she's saying is that he's giving not when she's giving out her number, the number represents something like inside her. Like
Oh, so she's extending herself to him.
yeah, exactly. That's what I feel like she's alluding to in the in the line. But here's my number, so call me maybe. It's also further. She also further develops his character in saying, so call me maybe. By saying call me maybe instead of just saying call me, the use of the word maybe establishes that just as how he's a hot knight, remember the use of the words hot and knight, he's a complex character. He's unpredictable. He's not able to. His characters are not predictable to her, and she isn't able to garner what he's going to do, further developing his
Yeah.
character.
She's not completely sure of him, just as she isn't completely sure of the relationship yet, if she wants it to be casual or something more.
Yeah. So I think we should move on to the next one, the next verse, whatever. It's I'll read it. You took
Okay.
your time with the call. I took no time with the fall. You gave me nothing at all. But you're still in my way. I beg and borrow and steal at first sight, and it's real. I didn't know I would feel it. But it's in my way.
Since the chorus and the sorry. So it says you took your time with the call, I took no time with the fall. So this is saying that he's not really as dependent on her as she feels dependent on him. He's like, oh well, I might get to this, might not. So it takes him some time to get to the calling. But when she's taking no time with the fall, she's basically saying that that she's putting herself out there, that she is willing to take risks, even if she's not aware of their full consequences,
Yeah, I,
perhaps.
yeah, I agree with that, and I think she further develops this idea of her not fully grasping the consequences of the relationship when she says, "I beg, no wait, but still you're in my way. I beg and borrow and steal at first sight, and it's real." Now, what is she stealing? What is she borrowing? What is she begging for in this relationship that she doesn't
Love,
understand?
compassion.
And at first sight, and it's real. It's I think this further extends the meaning of his manipulative nature. How remember we established earlier how she thinks she's her partner is a manipulative character. At first sight, and it's real. That means that the love that he's procuring for her is not real. It's only from like the from an external standpoint. So when people see them together, they assume that they're in love.
Yeah,
But she's revealing the inner dynamics of their relationship. That it's very dysfunctional. His unpredictability is too much for her. But as we've established, does not under she does not fully grasp the consequences. So she's not leaving. It's a very tragic tale of this dysfunctional relationship that she's
yes.
establishing.
I'd like to allude to the movie 500 Days of Summer, where the character Tom falls in love with Summer at first sight, where she's not necessarily ready for a full-on relationship. And I think this is similar with Carly Rae and the male character in this story, her love interest, as she interprets as first love right away. But perhaps that's not what he was really up for. I think she was going in with false expectations. So I don't know if we can necessarily put all the blame on him for her false expectations.
Yeah, and I think that the false expectations that she had clearly led to the weird dynamics that have resulted in this relationship, as we can tell by the fact that it's not true love. It's only true
Yeah,
love externally on the surface.
yes. She believed in true love, but that was not something that he could give her.
Yeah, and this is furthered by the if we refer after this. Uh, sorry, I lost my line. It's where is it? If we refer to the
Uh,
fact that she refers to him as baby. Now
yeah,
we could clearly we could write initially we could write this off as her calling him by pet name, baby, honey, whatever they want to call each other, right? But babies, she specifically chose baby. Now, what are babies a representation of? Babies are a symbol of innocence,
yeah,
uncorrupted being, an uncorrupted entity. Now, by calling him baby rather than any other pet name, she's showing that she's innocent. She's to this relationship, the dynamic. She still thinks that they're in love. She doesn't
yeah.
grasp the
I
consequences.
agree. I think it is definitely a symbol of innocence. Um, and in a sense, she's really saying that she's not ready for this, even though she thought she was. She overestimated her own ability.
Yeah, it's a very complex dynamic established by Ray Jepsen in this song. So we should move on to the next one, right? Next one.
Yeah,
Okay.
the chorus and the pre-chorus and the chorus we've already gone over. So let's skip to the bridge. Before you came into my life, I missed you so bad. I missed you so bad. I missed you so, so bad. Before you came into my life, I missed you so bad, and you should know that I missed you so, so bad. So what do you think about this?
So I think it's a very complex set of lyrics put down by Carly Rae Jepsen here. Before you came into my life, I missed you so bad. Of course, she presents us with a clearly impossible set of sequences. You can't miss someone before you meet them. But
Yeah,
that impossible set of consequences here, it's meant to represent the relationship. It's a fantasy. It's impossible. It's not supposed to work. And
Yeah.
but on the surface, as we've established, it seems good. It seems as love at first sight, but it's not. It's a fantasy. Just as established in these two lines, how it's an impossibility. It cannot happen due to the inner dynamics of it, the inner incompatibilities between the two.
Yeah. And to add on to that, I think that her act of missing him so bad is part of her false expectations that the media that she had grown up with gave her. Many romantic movies gave her this idea of true love, and in her eyes, that's what had to be, what was. So when she first saw him, she realized that this is what she was longing for. This was her idea of true love, even though it was a false expectation.
Yeah, I think the song overall is really good, and all the allusions and symbolism that Carly Rae Jepsen makes in this song, it's really smart. It's well done to tell a story on the surface of a standard love song, but on the below it, but underneath the surface, tells the tale of a complex, dysfunctional relationship that was just not made to happen.
Yes.
It's a great commentary on human nature and human incompatibility and standing up to the complex of true love. And it's really a tragic but also eye-opening at the same time, the way Carly Rae Jepsen wrote this. It's very
Yeah.
smart.
I think a lot of people interpret this as just another basic pop song. Um, but in fact, I believe that this song is a very in-depth study of um, true love and the expectations that a society gives us and puts on us, and human nature and love as a concept.
Yeah, I really like it for that.
So I don't think that people should be discrediting her for this song, as in fact I think it's a very it has a lot of critical and artistic value.
Yeah. So I hope our analysis, our reading into of Carly Rae Jepsen's Call Me Maybe" has given you guys, you viewers, you listeners, some thought, a food for thought. You guys could randomly think of whenever you're bored or listen to. So that's episode 2 of Question and Quandaries. Uh,
Yes.
It's your boy Whale Fetus United and Tepip.
Thank you for having me on. I hope I'll be able to be on in the future.
Oh, I hope to have you on too, man. It was a pleasure, and
Yes.
it's been a great episode, and I hope y'all, audience, watchers, listeners, or whatever, have enjoyed it. And Whale Fetus and Tepip out.
Yes. See you later.